delivering an easy, secure, and optimal remote workspace. So let's help you plan your move to the cloud. I guess we'll begin with moving to who the speakers are today. So I'll introduce myself and I'll pass over the other presenters. So my name's David Wilkinson. I'm a Citrix CTP. I'm an EUC architect here at Novosco. George.
Hi, my name is George. Like David, I'm also a Citrix CTP and an EUC architect at Novosco.
Hi everyone, my name is Wendy Gay. I'm a Citrix CTA. I manage a technologist team for Citrix and I'm a systems engineer for Ireland.
Thanks, Wendy. So let's kick off with the agenda. So we've a packed presentation slide today. We're going to try and get through as quickly as possible. But the set agenda is overview of Citrix to the cloud, remote PC, workspace evolution, networking products, analytics, and then finally, if we have time at the end, for a Q&A. So let's do an overview of Citrix to the cloud. So what is Citrix Cloud? It's a subscription-based service for platform hosting and administering Citrix services. So think of the management infrastructure that you need, such as storefront delivery controllers, SQL databases, NetScaler gateways, that you need to have ready before you can publish your resources in Citrix. Let's remember that the subscription service also includes the customer success services, or what would have been known as subscription advantage. So support is actually included, and there's an allocated success person to ensure that your journey to the cloud is successful with guidance available from Citrix. It allows you to accelerate your cloud strategy. So whether you're really at the beginning of your cloud strategy, whether you've actually dipped your toes into it, whether you're halfway there, or whether you're pretty mature, what Citrix Cloud Services allow you to do is essentially enter anywhere in the middle of that. So if you're only at the very beginning of it, it allows that approach of, slowly moving to cloud-based services while then maintaining your existing on-premises solutions, and then through the period of time, based on applications, based on the company strategy, allow you to move towards a more cloud-based adopted solution. But again, I think we also have to remember that everybody is at a different stage of their journey, whether that be at the start, be at the middle, or be at the end. So it really does allow you to come in at any of those approaches and allow the services to be used in such a way as hybrid can be used. So as I said there, I mentioned the word hybrid. So it allows you to essentially transition seamlessly to hybrid cloud. So with the Citrix Cloud Services, you can introduce what you have currently on your existing on-premises solution. You can also introduce cloud-based solutions, cloud-based platforms such as public cloud. And again, it allows you to go at the pace at which you need to go at to go through that journey. We all know it's not an overnight thing. We all know there's other elements that need to be thought about before going on that cloud journey, such as security. But again, it allows for that flexibility to go between public cloud, on-premises, and go at the pace that you need. Citrix Cloud hosts and operates the platform and services. So the management plane, which it would have been known as before that we covered, the delivery controller storefront, this in essence is managed by Citrix. They keep that platform up and available. They provide the high availability of it. They provide the DR of it. It's infrastructure that you don't need to worry about anymore. It's databases that you don't need to back up anymore. That has essentially been passed and managed by Citrix. And one of the great benefits really is the evergreenness of it. So no more upgrades at the back end, no more outages at the weekends. The upgrade, from 1912 to 2006, that involves a lot of time and effort, involves a lot of planning. And I guess the benefit with the cloud is it's evergreen. So this is constantly updated and kept updated, and it really is enabled cloud first. So new features and new benefits are always delivered through the cloud before then going on to on-premises. And then with the benefit of actually using Citrix Cloud and the services it comes with, services are activated. So we'll go on to the next slide of what it actually includes Citrix Cloud, but services can be activated fairly quickly, not installed, not configured, not planned, not 10 days of effort to get it configured in the right way. These services are activated and available in a very, very short space of time. So what is Citrix Cloud and the services that it offers? Most people probably think of it as our beloved virtual apps and desktop, or Zen app and Zen desktop, but it's not quite just that. So Citrix Cloud is the endpoint management, which would have been Zen Mobile, so it can be managed and delivered from the cloud. Content collaboration, which is what we would be known as before ShareFile. So again, that can be moved to the cloud and managed from the cloud. Secure browser, that allows access to essentially a Linux-based browser if you have a requirement to launch internet activity outside of your actual on-premises environment or office, which allows for potentially no leakage really of anything coming from the internet into your environment. The smart tools that allow you to operate smartly in relation to a lot of these cloud services, such as auto scaling, such as health checks. The gateway service is actually NetScaler Gateway delivered in the cloud platform. Analytics, and then there's other elements that you can go with the apps and desktops. Essentials, which is the lower product set, but is also available through the cloud platform. And with all that encompassing, it helps you really support workloads hosted on your choice of hybrid cloud, private cloud, public cloud, and then general hypervisors. So choosing the right location for you is kind of key in this journey towards the cloud. So this is with the hybrid approach that we talked about. You've got your on-premise solutions there. All those are supported and all those can be tied in. You've got your cloud and all the different platforms available there. Again, these can be tied into the same management platform. And then finally, extending into WVD. It wouldn't be right talking about moving to the cloud without mentioning Microsoft's Windows Virtual Desktop as well. What makes it all work? So there's a key element to all this, and that's the cloud connector. So the cloud connector is what needs to be installed on your resource location, whether that be Azure or on-premises. That is essentially your proxy to Citrix Cloud, and that operates the connection between your resources that you need to launch locally and the cloud infrastructure. So think of it as the interaction between the cloud and everything on site. So everything is brokered through that. Your access to applications is brokered through that, and that's all achieved through a secure HTTPS outbound traffic only. And that again goes in the evergreen approach that it auto updates the connector as and when is required. And if we look at the right-hand side there, we see Citrix Managed. That's the elements that Citrix manages from an end-to-end point of view. And then obviously the customer is still responsible for managing their own Active Directory, their own server VDAs, etc. But you can see how much of the load is taken away from the customer and is managed within that actual platform. So WVD was mentioned, I guess, a few slides back. There's a lot of opportunity in the market around WVD. There's a lot of discussion around WVD. So essentially, this is covering the value adds that Citrix provides to WVD. It allows hybrid cloud management. You can tie in WVD, you can tie in your on-premises and your other public clouds. Citrix has the Workspace Environment Manager, to optimize your user density, login performance, and general drive mappings and user configuration that's required. Autoscale, as previously mentioned in the smart tools, it allows for the infrastructure to be scaled up and scaled down, or shut down and started up. With public cloud, the key thing is, I guess, the cost. And how much cost it will be to have that public cloud up and available at any particular time. Autoscale helps achieve that management of powering up, powering down, or expanding into additional workloads, etc. obviously, the best in class protocol with delivering exceptional user experience in any device, the Citrix HDX technology. The advanced monitoring that's available through the Citrix Director, which is yet to have really anything in WVD. Performance and security analytics, so actually understanding what's going on inside those desktops, what threats are faced inside those desktops, whether there's suspicious activity. The Citrix app alerting technology, Citrix app protection and watermarking, session recording, and Citrix provisioning. These are all value adds that layering Citrix on top of WVD will give, which aren't there by default, which aren't there at all in some cases for WVD. Move on to remote PC, which again is part of the cloud service. It's also part of the on-premises product, and it really is the unspoken, I guess, feature that not many people use. So essentially, remote PC allows access to your corporate resources remotely in a secure manner. So if you've got your Citrix Cloud or your on-premise solution with a gateway product there, and you've got your virtual apps and desktop service there, there is no need to actually publish resources, stand up RDS servers, stand up VDIs to allow connectivity to back-end solutions, back-end PCs. The VDA component itself can be installed in those remote PCs, and you can provide access for someone externally to the Citrix infrastructure, for example, the cloud, to then provide access to their desktop. And that allows really a fast deployment without any large infrastructure investment. If you've already an existing solution there, you don't need to buy loads and loads of data center hardware to accommodate that. You're using the same compute and storage that was there before. And it essentially has been, I think, invaluable probably in the last 3 months more than any of delivering a secure remote solution for either new Citrix customers that need this purpose, or existing customers who really have not seen the benefit until now. And I guess the benefits there is, no workload investment. It uses the existing physical PC. It's delivering that HDX experience that we talked about to any device. The automated deployment model, the ability to support Linux and Windows desktop. Deployment along with cloud basically requires very, very small infrastructure footprint to delivery. So we talked about that cloud connector. That would be the only infrastructure investment that you would need to make on top of actually connecting to the PCs. So you can see how small and how quickly that could be done. And there has been examples recently where there's an explosion due to the pandemic of these deployments, with in many cases organizations having 10,000 plus devices, and those being adopted within 7 days. And let's give a direct example to this. So I work mainly for healthcare and for Cambridge University hospitals, and we provided access in a 48-hour time frame for remote analysis of medical images by consultants. So, MRI scan viewing, PACS viewing. This was delivered in a very, very short space of time because we had the existing infrastructure there, and because we knew it was an immediate requirement. There was staff shielding and working at home that could still be valuable to obviously day-to-day operations of the hospital. And you'll see some quotes, at the very bottom, the functionality once you're on the workstation is the same as it was in the hospital. The manipulation, scrolling, windowing, changes in image settings, it's the same in what they had before. So we can see how quickly some of these infrastructures can be deployed, and really existing investments or new investments can deliver very, very quick solutions to the customer to keep them going. So that kind of finishes off the cloud element. I'll pass over to Wendy. Thanks.
Thanks, David. So what I'm going to talk about today is I'm going to talk about the workspace evolution and the evolution of our Citrix workspace and how we can provide the best possible productivity for our end users. And to start with that, I suppose I go back to what we have in our customer experiences, our non-work related experiences with tech. And when we think about, I suppose, examples like Aer Lingus and British Airways or whatever, and we talk about those applications that we use in our day-to-day lives at home, the experience is really, really good. And our consumer experience is excellent. We can go onto those applications, we can book a flight, we can change a seat, we can even find out if the gate's changed, all while we're sitting on our phone. So that experience is really, really good. What we don't have is the same experience in our work environment. Quite often it's much more complex. We have to deal with things like much older applications that are traditional applications that are vital to our businesses, and they're critical. So we need to make sure that our end users have access to those, but then we also have other applications that have creeped in, such as SaaS-based applications like Office 365, with Salesforce, with Workspace. There's applications that are natively born in the cloud. And how do we provide a really good user experience for our end users in this space? At the moment, we don't have the matching up. Okay, now our slides will. Right, so I have an example here. This is Maria. She is our user, and this is what her day would be like. She's a knowledge-based worker. She gets into work. The first thing she has to do is, book holidays. So she's in her work day. She's booking holidays. Now she gets a call. She has to go into her team. Someone's looking for expenses to be reviewed. She's now contact switching into Concur to have a look at these expenses. She's going to approve them. She's going to approve another one now for somebody else while she's in there. So we now have Workday with Concur. We're going to go back into our calendar. She realizes that she's got a meeting and her soft phone is broken. So she's gone into ServiceNow. She's trying to log a ticket really quickly so that she can get her soft phone to behave itself. Once she gets that done, now she's back into email. There's a big deal closing. Someone wants to know an update on a Salesforce opportunity that's in flight right now. So we're now on another SaaS application. We're back into mail. She's replying with that detail on that deal that was closed. And when that's all finished, that's a lot of information. So I know that was a very fast run through of what was happening. But what to me is obvious in that situation, we've lots of applications. We're not using all of the application that we're using. A lot of our applications are enterprise grade applications, but in my day-to-day life, and probably in yours as well, we're using 4 or 5 functions in these applications. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. And what we can also see there is that Maria is content switching between lots of different applications to try and get something done. We fast forwarded that for this example, but you can imagine that takes a lot longer in real time, and that's making Maria less productive. She's a knowledge worker, and we want Maria to be doing what she's hired to do and not spending her day on menial tasks or repetitive tasks she doesn't need to do. So when we talk about those enterprise applications and we talk about the amount of functionality that's built into each one of them, I use Workday all the time in work. I probably use 3 or 4 functions within Workday, but Workday has a lot more functionality built into it. And that functionality has to cater for everybody who uses Workday. Whether you're in HR or whether you're a manager, every piece of functionality is built in. But most of us use just that 1% of the functionality that's built into it. We just need to get that little task done that we need to do and move on and get out of Workday as quickly as possible. So that's some of the problems that we're facing. I'll just move this on. And our Citrix Workspace platform then, apologies, a bit of a delay when I move it on too quickly. Just go back one. And one more. There we go. Sorry, everybody. When you look at our Citrix Workspace, I think the most important thing to realize is it's a complete platform. What we have here is the ability to have all of the different components required to make a complete workspace. Every technology that's included is provided by a single vendor. So we are better able to have better integration points between each one of these products. So we have everything from endpoint management. So we can manage your endpoints, iOS, Android, Chrome, whatever that happens to be. We can provide you with all of the data that you need. So, we can integrate with OneDrive, Google. We have our own Citrix files. We can integrate with all of those. We can provide you access to SaaS and web-based applications directly into your workspace. as well as applications and desktops for more knowledge workers who need that extra requirement. And then what I'm going to talk about today is the intelligence piece, where we're going to organize, guide, and automate your work. All of this then is underpinned by a secure access via the network. I know George is going to talk more about that in a minute. We want to make sure we give you visibility and analytics. We want to make sure that you can see all of that experience that your users are having and give you an actual score on the experience that they're having inside of our workspace. And we want to make sure we give you a consistent user experience as well. I'm going to show you what that workspace looks like. Apologies now. I hope I clicked that. There we go. So with our Citrix Workspace, what we're delivering is a consumer-like experience across every single device. So what we want to do is make sure that that workspace looks the same on a phone as it does on a Chromebook, as it does on a Windows 10 device, so that your users have a very familiar experience regardless of the device type that they use. We want to make sure as well that we give you single sign-on to all your applications and your data. Again, that makes the user experience much, much better. We also want to make sure we have a universal search, again, inside the workspace to make everything as performant as possible. And we also want to make sure we give you contextual security and performance so that users see what they're supposed to see and nothing else. And I wanted to focus specifically on the automation and the intelligence piece. So when we look at that, the first thing that you'll notice is we have that ability to do a search, and we have the ability to have these customizable sidebars, which are going to increase your productivity. One of the most interesting pieces of this to me, hopefully that clicks in, is the notification feed. So when you look at that notification feed, and when you think back to Maria, and she's accessing all those different SaaS applications directly from browsers and having to log into them and navigate to the correct page, etc. If you look down this notification feed, what we've done here is we're integrating with those enterprise grade applications in such a way that we can deliver you those 4 or 5 functions that I personally or Maria personally needs to see into this notification feed. So I'm no longer needing to access Workday. I can now have what I need to get delivered directly into the workspace. So if you think back to that photocopier, that big green button that we saw, I now have that big green button inside of my workspace, and I now can actually action that detail directly from inside my workspace without ever having to leave it. The idea of our Citrix Workspace and this notification feed is to give you enough information, but not too much information. So we don't want to make and give you all the complexity that's in that enterprise application and deliver that into the workspace, because that will just defeat that purpose of making it more streamlined. What we've done is we've given you enough information, and then we've enabled you to click on a blade to give you that little bit more detail so you can actually take an action directly from the workspace. So I can approve a report here, and I can see exactly what I need to get done without ever having to leave the workspace. Apologies, my mouse is acting up big time. I just can't apologize for that now. So I have an example here of what would happen if Maria was using our Citrix Workspace rather than each individual application. So the first thing you notice here is I've got all my desktops and files. I'm able to integrate with OneDrive. I'm able to integrate with network shares. I have the ability to see my notification feed. I've got my desktop, so David was talking about the hybrid action. I can see an integration with Salesforce. I can register for a course. So this is a SAP application integration, and I can do it directly from inside that workspace. I can like notifications. I can see things from Power BI. So I now have a chart from Power BI that tells me about a sale that's been completed and who are the top sales reps. So all of this information now is being delivered directly into me from that workspace. I can send back a request, and I can also send stuff to Teams. So I can integrate with other systems as well, and I can send information directly to Teams from inside of our workspace as well. So I can hit yes, please check out this and hit send, all directly from inside of my workspace, and you can see those integration points are there. I can also create a lead. I can add in the account name. Again, I'm not having to open up Salesforce to do this. I can do it directly from inside of my workspace, and that information is then synced with that system of record is what we call it, which is our integration with that enterprise app. So when I get notifications, I'm actually getting information from that system of record, but I can also do actions. And actions means I want to push information into Workday, for example. So I can request a PTO as well, and that information will go into Workday on my behalf. And I think probably the most important thing to realize is the intelligence piece is just a feature of the entire workspace. So we still have our desktops, we still have our apps, we still have our published apps. And we now have a virtual assistant that's constantly being developed as well. So I can actually ask it questions and it will give me information from those systems of record. So that was a whirlwind tour. Apologies for the mouse clicks. I think we had a little bit of a delay when I was trying to click information across. And what you'll notice is the intelligent features, apologies, George. The intelligent features have, here we go. We have our action pane, our micro apps, and our intelligent feed. In the service, from an admin perspective, we have a micro app builder. So that's going to help you build those integrations. We also have templated actions, where the actions from things like Salesforce and Workday, where they're automatically built in, and we've created those templates to make it easy to use. We then have a developer portal where people are developing these micro apps and then sharing them and posting them. And as I said, the built-in virtual assistant is constantly being developed as well, and that's going to enable you to use audio and also type in searches within the intelligent workspace. So I'll put in some details of some of the systems of record currently in place, but of course you can customize that as well using our micro app builder. So apologies again for the mouse clicks. I'm going to pop over to George, who's going to talk about some of the networking products.
Yeah, thanks very much, Wendy. So yeah, as Wendy mentions, we're now going to touch on some of the networking products. Firstly, what is SD1? Basically, software-defined WAN, or SD1 for short, simplifies an organization's wide area network, reduces the cost and complexity which comes with managing wide area networks. With an SD1 appliance in place from Citrix, you can basically aggregate multiple connections from MPLS, mobile, or general broadband links together to create a single logical link, which increases bandwidth, and it also eliminates single points of failure. And what this means is basically your journey to cloud and a digital workspace is accelerated, and your experience with SaaS applications such as Office 365 gets a boost in the right direction. So with the typical enterprise organization having multiple branch offices spread out across the country, SD1 enables secure and reliable app and media delivery to those locations using an intelligent always-on WAN accelerator. So take the example where each of your branch offices have unique characteristics. Some branch offices have large amounts of users that may be using graphical apps and other media solutions, and other offices are maybe located in remote areas of the country that cannot avail of high-speed broadband or maybe MPLS circuits, or the MPLS circuits may be too costly for your organization to keep your employees productive. SD1 helps with this by basically giving you more options. So for that remote location that cannot avail of high-speed internet, you could purchase dual WAN connections, maybe lower grade ones, and basically combine them, and that would give you 2x the bandwidth you got from the single connection, plus it adds redundancy if one link goes down. And for the location that you cannot deliver an MPLS circuit to, or it's too costly to deploy, again, using SD1 allows you to reduce cost by deploying lower grade WAN solutions that perform just as reliable as an MPLS circuit in regards to availability and also bandwidth promise. And then for the locations that have a lot of users, the usage of applications such as Teams and Zoom and other bandwidth hungry applications is increasing. But with SD1, again, you can more easily be prepared for these upward trends and keep users productive with the user experience they expect by aggregating more bandwidth from multiple WAN connections through SD1. We touched on the fact that users are now using apps like Teams and Zoom more than ever, and I want to get into that just a little bit more. So if you were to Google Teams bandwidth, you'll get some results back from non-Microsoft websites that share some of their own test results on bandwidth. And these findings show that what we already know basically from years of network optimization is video kills bandwidth. A video will take whatever it needs to play the crispest, clearest video and sound possible, but at the detriment of whatever else goes on the network. So on documentation from Microsoft, they talk about avoiding the bottleneck of many internal hops across a WAN and basically take the shortest path to Microsoft data centers. And then lastly, QoS or quality of service is recommended, but not necessarily to make Teams work at all times, but basically to keep the video turning when things start to go pear-shaped. Hence the phrase that's highlighted in the documentation, risk mitigation in the event of unanticipated network events. Unanticipated network events do, and they will happen on your network at some point. So it just depends on how tolerant your users are of them. So now that we know a little bit more about Teams, let's look at an average network infrastructure that we come across fairly regularly. So in this slide, think about your own network. You might find some similarities with this example. Pre-COVID, for example, we have an organization that has multiple sites across the UK and Ireland, and they all connect to data centers in the middle of England. The data center hosts applications locally, with some applications also in the cloud. Each branch site has about 20 users working from them, with about 5 to 10% of the workforce working from home on any given day. And each branch office also has 50 megabit MPLS links. Some sites have backup links, but not all of them. But day to day, the user experience is good from home and also from the branch office. And as we enter the early stages of COVID, the shift to home working is quickly ramped up. So each site now has about 0 to 3 users at them. And with such a remote workforce, the organization wants to improve collaboration and productivity by making use of apps such as Microsoft Teams and Zoom. All of a sudden, video calls on Teams involving multiple participants is common day to day. Remote PC may also be used, which David mentioned, to allow staff to connect back to their PC in the branch. But all of this works okay, as the local internet of each staff member is used to connect a remote PC, and when the users are using Teams, again, that's connected from their home broadband over the internet to the Microsoft data center, which uses a short path. So end users might experience some competition on their home networks with other family members. So you might have family members that are using Xbox or PlayStation or watching Netflix or other video streaming sites, but overall the experience has been okay from home. And then as we enter the final stages of COVID, employees start to return back to work. And that's sort of what we're seeing now and today. The video conferencing calls do continue though, but now more workers are running those calls from the branch office. And with the best will in the world, Teams wants to provide the best experience possible. But what it does is it actually fills the branch pipes to the maximum. So this squeezes other applications for bandwidth. So those remote PCs, or maybe the RDP or Zoom or whatever, there's now a lot of competition for bandwidth. And what it does is it results in poor user experience. So branch workers are now competing for available bandwidth from those expensive MPLS circuits. And remote workers who use remote PC are also competing with the branch office users that are using Teams and other video conferencing tools. So the business must find a solution, basically to a new problem that wasn't here, I guess, before COVID. Using technology such as Citrix SD1 basically allows us to do something much better than network quality of service. It does application quality of service. It has several thousand application signatures built into the appliance with relational groups as part of its policy configuration. So this means that with one policy, you can limit social media, which would include things like LinkedIn or Facebook and Twitter. It can even allow this type of traffic, but block the video that's embedded within those sites. And anyone that has Facebook knows that it's pretty much filled with videos nowadays, and those videos also have the ability to autoplay, even if the user that's on the site doesn't necessarily want to watch the video. So that consumes a lot of bandwidth, obviously. And when it comes to Citrix traffic, SD1 has visibility into the various virtual channels, and that means it can accelerate mouse clicks, it can accelerate keyboard input, screen updates. It can also set an amount of bandwidth available for print jobs or file transfers. And basically, it's to prevent these activities from having a negative impact on user experience. So in this example, for the sake of keeping the diagram clearer, SD1 has been applied to all branch offices on the island of Ireland. And this is allowing a secure local internet breakout of Teams and any other SaaS apps, which takes the heavy traffic off the existing MPLS connections and also allows those remote PC users that are still working from home to have basically the best possible experience. So now moving away from SD1 and onto other common complexities found in enterprise IT. And from an enterprise data center point of view, this is what it looks like. There have been too many specialized solutions that focus on very limited use cases. There's traditional SSL VPN solutions for remotely accessing client and enterprise applications. There are application delivery controllers for load balancing and improving the security of web applications. We have cloud gateway functionality in data centers to monitor and control access to cloud and SaaS apps. And then we have specialized mobile VPN appliances, and this is because traditional SSL VPN solutions don't necessarily cater for mobile apps and mobile devices. And then we have proxy solutions for VDI applications, so we know those very well. Those are the ICA proxies for our virtual apps and desktops environments. And commonly, the enterprise basically has 3 or more different remote access solutions running in their data centers. And to make it a little bit more challenging, some of these applications have moved from on-premises to public cloud or a hybrid cloud, and IT has lost access and security to some of the applications that they used to have access and security over. So how can IT see what's happening with the network, with the data, the apps, and the users? Firstly, let's talk about too many point solutions. What happens when we have too many point solutions? There literally is chaos. So for users, they have multiple URLs. They have different portals that they need to remember, different user interfaces, different authentication methods, passwords, and multi-factor authentication engines. And there's also a requirement to install plugins on their local desktops and extensions for each of these remote access solutions. Management of these solutions also requires more skill set for the IT team, more training, working with multiple vendors when there's issues, planning for multiple upgrades, and it just really results in a management nightmare. And it also increases cost to maintain all these devices and solutions. So how can we solve this for everyone going forward? Citrix ADC, with the gateway function, solves many of these challenges by offering a unique platform. It's basically the Swiss Army knife of networking. Firstly, you can deploy ADC on premises, in a public cloud, or even as a managed service from Citrix, which does have some limitations, I probably should call out. However, with the ADC, you provide a single portal for web, enterprise, cloud, mobile, and Citrix apps. Users no longer have to remember multiple different URLs for different systems or multiple credentials to authenticate to those systems. There is also no requirement to install multiple plugins or extensions on the end user's PC. So with a solution such as ADC, your users do have the ability to get the applications they need with minimal effort. The user experience and productivity is actually increased, but it makes life easier for users and also IT when it comes to supporting those end users. For IT, also you get visibility into the apps, into the data, and into your users, basically with monitoring tools that are designed for virtual apps and desktops and gateway. And there is also no requirement to deal with multiple vendors. So if you have a support issue, you go to a single vendor, it keeps everything under the one hat. It's much easier to deal with. And finally, you don't have to constantly stay abreast of multiple different technologies. So again, you've got the one vendor to deal with, you've got the one technology to basically master. And as I mentioned, you do have the option of using the Citrix ADC functionality in Citrix Cloud using the gateway service, and this is fully managed by Citrix. And it allows you basically to provide ICA proxy to your virtual apps and desktops securely over a fast cloud backbone. And also the gateway service has multiple points of presence across the world, so you can be guaranteed if wherever you work in the world, you have close access to one of the points of presence, which reduces your latency to your apps and desktops. The gateway service also provides single sign-on and remote access to SaaS apps, and it leverages authentication providers such as Okta and Microsoft Azure AD, which is quite commonly used in the enterprise. So before I go into the last section for today, which is analytics, I just want to point out that if you are keen on hearing more about the networking components that I've talked about, there is another upcoming webinar from Citrix on the 15th of July. And it will have a networking focus also. So I do encourage you to register for the business continuity planning webinar. You can find the registration link from the email sent out to you for this webinar. And we'll also post a link in the chat as well for those. So the last piece is Citrix Analytics, basically with all the different technology solutions available, and an influx of SaaS usage from public cloud providers, and obviously a more remote workforce. We need a way to monitor user experience and protect our company assets. So Citrix Analytics is a suite of services available in Citrix Cloud that offers a unique view of our Citrix products from a security, performance, and operations perspective. As we feed Workspace with information from our SaaS apps, our mobile virtual apps, devices, users, and so on, that data is digested and analyzed and then scored, and it basically provides us with insights and recommendations on our users, their behavior, and the infrastructure. So why Citrix Analytics? One of the leading causes of a security breach is human error. It really is difficult to train all your staff to be conscious of phishing attempts, embedded malware links in emails or other websites and so on every minute of the day. For a user to be conscious of that each minute of the day, it's pretty much impossible. And also with a remote workforce, corporate devices are constantly on the move now in private and public places, trains, airports, coffee shops. This increases the risk of data leak or worse from lost or stolen devices. And unfortunately, attacks are becoming more sophisticated and harder to detect, which makes it an ongoing battle. It's basically intensified and reached new extremes over the past few years. Security breaches, as you will be well aware, are extremely expensive for organizations. But this is where Citrix Analytics for Security comes in, basically to help prevent these breaches. So Security Analytics establishes a secure digital perimeter by offering user behavior security analytics, which helps prevent internal threats and data exfiltration attacks by tracking and modeling user behavior and categorizing users into risk profiles. And this allows you to take action against threats to your business. App Security Analytics, which is basically protecting applications from external attacks by ranking applications based on risk and suggesting mitigation steps to enhance security of those apps. And Data Security Analytics, which prevents internal attacks and threats, and basically working with data loss prevention engines to track sensitive files and also prevent data exfiltration attacks. So Citrix Analytics is not just about security, however. Again, as I mentioned, with the increased remote working and the usage of SaaS apps in public cloud, app performance and operations are two other areas of focus. So with Citrix Analytics for Performance, a user experience machine learning engine developed by Citrix tracks key performance indicators across your users' virtual apps and desktop sessions. Based on the performance and scoring of these key indicators, users are either categorized as excellent, fair, or poor. And it's obviously the poor user experience members you will want to focus on first. There could be many reasons why users' experience is poor, but now with performance analytics, you actually have some data-driven proof, which allows you to focus your time and efforts on resolving particular issues within your environment, or with how the affected user interacts with your virtual apps and desktop site. Note also that Performance Analytics also works for your on-premises virtual apps and desktop sites and is easily integrated into Analytics. So I can use Performance Analytics with both my cloud-hosted and my on-premises virtual apps and desktops deployments. Citrix Usage Analytics allows you to view usage data for content collaboration, micro apps, the Workspace service, SaaS, and web apps. With the Usage Analytics, you basically get a view of your top users, the top applications, your top access domains in your organization based on SaaS or web applications, top user-initiated actions within the Workspace service, top micro apps, top data uploaders and downloaders, and much more. So there's really a lot of information that you can get from this technology. Having the wealth of information provided by Usage Analytics basically places the business in control of that much needed visibility on your remote workforce, and also their behavior and usage of the various productivity applications that you provide. And delving deeper into the performance analytics part, Citrix tracks key performance indicators, basically like latency, logon duration, failures, and reconnections. And based on the performance scoring of each of these key performance indicators, user sessions are individually categorized into excellent, fair, or poor categories. So you can see basically the poor category. It has a scoring from 1 to 40. You can see that just on the right of your screen at the bottom. And this scoring is basically calculated individually for each user. So it's based on their logon duration experience, latency, and so on. So if I log on and I have a really slow logon experience, I will probably be ranked in the poor category, and that allows IT to see that and then try and investigate why that happened to me. If it was my fault, i.e. something with my internet or something with my broadband connection, or maybe it's something on the IT side that IT have control of, like a user profile is too large or so on. So now we're actually going to have a quick demo of the Citrix Analytics platform. So I'll just click play on this video. So here we see security analytics with users being placed into high risk, medium, and low risk categories. It all depends on the user behavior. You can go into actual users to see, why they're in a high category. You can also see that Citrix Security Analytics has started session recording, so it's recording a session to see what's going on for this user. There's a lot of categories for compromised endpoints and so on, and we see access summary, which shows the failed attempts to our gateway. And we can go into that and see actually who has failed to authenticate to the gateway, why, what their client IP address is, operating system, and so on. So there's a lot of information that you can get from this. And then user access piece, it basically shows risky users by access of data or download volume. So here we can see Caroline Long, for example. She's a risky user to the business based on the amount of data that she downloads. And we can drill down to see the actual domains and categories that she has been downloading from. So things like Facebook and so on. And also it shows the upload count and the download count and the transactions for each of these domains. App access, it shows the domains that pose a risk to the business. So for example, what we can see here is some access has been attempted to the Pirate Bay, which is obviously a malicious domain, and thankfully it's blocked for this organization. But we also get a view for how much data has been downloaded and uploaded to different domains, like gambling domains and so on. And also what links have been shared by users, which can also pose a security risk to the business. Performance analytics, again, displays over a period of time, basically the user experience of our virtual apps and desktops users. So we can see easy to read bar chart of the excellent, fair, and poor categorized users. And we can click into those categories. Basically, it can show us over a certain period of time for user experience users, for example. We can see how many users scored for fair on session responsiveness, session log-on duration, and so on. It also gives a breakdown of GPU processing time, log-on times, the session responsiveness, the WAN latency, and a lot of other information that's regarding to their network, which basically affects the session responsiveness time. And session availability is how many times have I actually tried to launch an application, how many times has it failed. In this example, we see that there was 1 failure out of 7 attempts to launch an application. And obviously we get to see what user that was as well. We can search for individual users if we wish, if we need to basically capture user sessions and see what their user experience was, so we can be selective in who we're targeting, and also the time period is adjustable as well. The data sources section of Citrix Analytics, it basically allows me to turn on data processing for each of my products. So for endpoint management, for example, and virtual apps and desktops, basically when you turn data processing on, that data is then ingested into the machine learning engines of Citrix Analytics. So you get all this different feedback on your users and so on. Gateways, another example. So if you want WAN latency, data center latency, that sort of stuff, you can enable data processing on that. And then the policy section here, so I can create different policies basically and actions. So if a user has a high upload count, for example, I could log them off their virtual apps and desktop session, or I could lock the user, or I could simply alert an administrator for further review. So there's lots of different actions I can take based on user behavior. So if something doesn't seem normal, maybe a user has logged on at 12 a.m. at night, but they never log on at that time, they've never logged on before at that time, that might increase the risk, and it might actually warrant the administrator being notified of that for further investigation to actually see if that was a legitimate access request at 12 a.m. or it may have been a compromise. That's the video complete. So let's go on to Q&A now. If we have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the chat box, or I think you can also potentially speak as well through your microphone if you have one. Thank you.
I think if we've no questions through, then
Thanks, all.
Obviously they know probably where to get us. We're all pretty much active on Twitter. As Chris has covered off, this session will be uploaded. So I guess thank you for attending, and I'm sure we'll join each other again.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.